Well, thank you for joining us today, everybody. It's great to see you all again. So we've got the whole VfL Chef team today. So coming from Birmingham, we have Justina.
Hello.
From Manchester, we have Alex.
Hello.
And from London, we have Ollie.
Hello.
And myself coming from Glasgow. So we were set a very challenging challenge around budget shopping. So we were given the challenge to make a day's worth of food for the budget of £4.50, but the real challenge here was that we had to only use corner shop food. So the reason that we were given this challenge was that it was highlighted by one of our case studies that were carried out for a woman called Margaret. So unfortunately, Margaret has several health issues. Her vision is getting worse, so she can't drive, so she's unable to get to supermarkets. She's also got limited mobility, and arthritis really limits certain things that she can do. For example, carrying heavy bags of shopping on a bus. So Margaret is a lifelong vegan, and she's starting to feel a little bit isolated. She's really limited for the interaction that she has socially, and she's really struggling to get fresh meals. So the budget that she has for £4.50 is based on what an adult on a state pension would have. So she's relying on the items that are close to hand at our local corner shop. So all the chefs had the same budget. So starting off with Justina, how did you find this challenge overall? Was it as challenging as I found it?
Yes, it definitely was very challenging. I found myself planning in advance, as anybody would, as they would go to the shops, and wanting to sort of have an idea what to buy. And then finding myself going to the shop and not finding any ingredients on the list and having to come up with recipes on the spot, which really made me think outside of box, really. But yeah, it was very tricky to find fresh produce. I'm not sure if anybody else faced the same issues. I was lucky to be able to choose from 3 different corner shops, and of course I chose the biggest one, hoping they're going to have a bit of more fresh things in there. Unfortunately, freshest thing in there was frozen peas, which I didn't buy because they were very expensive and it was a massive bag. But yeah, I think we're going to get into more details a bit later into that. So yeah, that's my first thoughts about the challenge.
So Alex, did you have a dish in mind that you wanted to prepare, and were you able to buy the ingredients at your corner store for this dish?
Well, I was quite lucky, really, because my corner store is a co-op, so it's a mini one. So lucky me. So there were fresh vegetables there that I could buy, but I did the £4.50 challenge for 2 people. I don't know whether the chefs did that. So I managed to eke it out for 2 people, just to sort of stretch it in case one person that was, didn't have any income, so it really had to. And it was a challenge. It was a challenge. But yes, I could get some fresh veg. But yeah, picking up with the peas, I wanted peas but couldn't. So I kind of had to play around with that. But yeah, I kind of had something in mind, but couldn't quite do what I wanted to do.
Yeah, and I think on a day-to-day basis, through modern living, that we do like to think, oh, I fancy this today, rather than what you need to have. So thinking of that £4.50 budget being stretched quite far, I can imagine things being quite expensive in London. So how did you find the shopping experience, Ollie?
Still, yeah, prices were just really inflated. I've got a good local shop. It's got fresh produce, not the best fresh produce. It's outside on a busy road, and you pick up an onion, and it's old. It's not like you'd find in a supermarket or greengrocers. But yeah, it's well stocked. It's got lots of vegan alternatives and things like that. But the prices are just really, really inflated, and that has been the issue for me. I did it for 2, but it was over budget.
Yeah, I found it particularly challenging that I walked into the shop with an idea in mind, and then I looked about and I couldn't see anything. And anything that I did have in mind, it was like Justina was saying, it was big bags, so things were really expensive. So I had perhaps looked at bags of rice and bags of oats that compared to supermarket prices, some things were perhaps even 3 times the price. So if you were in a situation where you could budget over the week and use your £4.50 times 7 over the week, you could buy a week's worth of shopping. And I think not everybody has the convenience and the luxury of being able to cook that way. So let's find out what our chefs made during this exciting challenge. So you were saying that there were some vegan alternatives available. Ollie, did you purchase any of these for your dishes, and what did you make?
I did, yeah. So I bought some vegan milk, some coconut milk actually. I bought a loaf of bread, but the prices were just crazy for these. The loaf of bread was £1.79, I think, which is ridiculous, you know, just for a cheap processed loaf as well. I bought a can of beans, kidney beans, which were £1.20 or £1, yeah, something like that. Which is, you know, you could pay that in a supermarket, but they'd be like the best organic ones, whereas these were like very cheap ingredients. And so I made a bread pudding with the bread and the milk, but very basic, and then using some spices out of my cupboard that I already had, a bit of nutmeg and things like that, and dried fruit, which I already had as well. I made a bean stew, again with spices that I already had. I bought some chopped tomatoes as well from the shop, which were really inflated, you know, but again, over £1 for them. So I made this bean stew with just loads of stuff that I had in the cupboards as well. And then for snack, I had porridge for breakfast. I bought some porridge oats as well, which again were really expensive, you know, for very basic oats. But like you were saying, if I did this over a week, you know, these things would carry out. I could have that all week, the porridge oats all week. So it would have worked over a week, but not for a day. And then for snacks, I baked some oats with some seeds and nuts and things and cinnamon that I already had, and like a kind of granola type thing as snacks. So yeah, that's everything I made.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic, Ollie. Well done. So how did you fare in Manchester at your small co-op then, Alex?
Well, I had a similar thing with Justina of going online. So I thought this would be the easiest way to do it. I could work out exactly. But when I got to the shop, they didn't quite have everything, excuse me, that I was planned for. However, I spent £4.41. And halfway through the shop, I realised that what I thought was the price of one item wasn't. It was more than that. So I had to cancel everything and then start again and explain to the security guy what I was doing, because it just looked a bit odd, like, you know, I've got to put in this. But anyway, so I bought microwave rice that serves 2 people. I wanted to buy a big bag, but on the budget wouldn't do it. 2 tins of baked beans. Now, the reason I went for 2 tins of baked beans was because of all the sources of proteins that I could get from the shop, that seemed to be the cheapest. So I got 2 of those. I got 750 grams of potatoes and 500 grams of carrots, a bunch of spring onions, sorry, I'm losing my voice, and some bread. Now, the reason I went for the spring onions was because they were 75p, whereas if I bought 3 onions, because I couldn't buy anything individually, it would be £1, and that took me over. So it would have been better value if I, you know, but that's what I bought. So for breakfast, I had, and my partner, we did it together today, we had beans on toast with some fried potatoes and some spring onions into that, and that was quite a good start for the day. And then for lunch, we had vegetable soup. And I used some of the baked beans from the second tin, not many, but some of them, into it just to give it a bit of protein, and serve that with and all the other bits of vegetables, and I did some croutons with that from the bread, and that was quite nice. And then my evening meal was a curry, so I had the rest of the tin of baked beans and all the veg, and that was served with the rice. So that was quite filling. So the only things that I actually added from my store cupboard was some margarine to go on the toast for beans on toast, a little bit of oil to fry the veg to get things going, and a teaspoon of curry powder. And I thought, well, because I was 9p under budget, I thought, well, okay, if I'd spread it over the week, I probably would be able to get some curry powder. But that was it. That was my day. Snacks, no extra things at all. However, I wasn't hungry in between, but I could have had some toast because there was still about 3/4 of a loaf left at the end of the thing, and also I had 2 carrots left over at the end. But if I could have spread it over 7 days, it would have made it easier, because I could have bought, as the other chefs were saying, like a bigger bag and then use that over the week. But that didn't include any other stuff, any toiletries. So this was just food.
Mm-hmm. So moving on to Justina, how did you fare with this super tight budget?
Well, as I said, I did a bit of research, which research included going to the shop in advance and sort of seeing what's available a little bit. So I found that I could get 500 grams of split peas or lentils for £1, and I thought that's an easy curry. Chopped tomatoes, 69p, doable. And then I came back to actually buy all the things. The guy was really weird because I didn't buy anything the first time, and I asked all the questions, sort of explain the situations, and he's like, why you don't go to Morrison's? Like, it's cheaper. And I was like, I'm upsetting my local shop guy already. But at the end of the day, I managed to buy a loaf of bread, which I already see a theme going on a bit, and tin of beans, which was my breakfast. And obviously wanted to sort of bulk it out. So I had 3 pieces of toast for breakfast. Then for lunch, I bought a flapjack, and because it was really hard to find anything else, and my budget really stretched out to sort of 2 meals. So I was like, I'm gonna starve for lunch. So I have bought a flapjack, which was my for the 12 o'clock coffee time sort of snack. But then by 4 o'clock, I was starving. I was so wanting something. So I used another slice of bread, but then I used some cupboard ingredients as spread, so just margarine and jam on top, because I thought I'm not gonna survive until dinner. For dinner, I made tin tomatoes and chickpea tagine. So tagine normally would have other ingredients, but unfortunately, budget didn't allow it. So we had chickpeas, tomato sauce, and store cupboard harissa paste, and 3 pieces of toast, because I have a whole loaf of bread to use up, and I used up the rest of the beans from breakfast. So sort of extra protein things. But thinking about 5 a day, it was not 5 a day. And why did I buy the lentils as I initially planned? Because when I gathered all my ingredients at the checkout, the guy said, oh, it's over the budget. I'm like, how come it's over the budget? Because there's actually, for that item, there was label on the shelf saying £1. And he's like, no, it's over £2. Well, like, why there's labels? And a lot of things in the shop didn't have labels. The prices were just mysterious price. So I had to go and ask the guy, how much does that cost? Even if he followed me around the shop, well, so I looked at everything, because I must look very dodgy. And I asked, how much is that? And he had no clue how much things were. So from time of sort of budgeting and trying not to upset the guy in the shop, it was really difficult to sort of cut the budget. At the end of the day, I overspent by 15p, because I bought a flapjack. It was last thing by the checkouts. And then I thought, if I ask any more questions, if I say no for that flapjack, I think the guy gonna throw me outside the shop. So yeah, that was me.
Yeah, I found a similar situation in Glasgow where certain things were price marked, but then when they went through the till, they turned out that they weren't that price. And I think for somebody in Margaret's situation, where the vision's not that great, that it might be a bit tricky to actually confirm what the prices were. So I went looking for fresh produce. I had in mind buy some beans, buy some lentils. I can make some nice soups, stews, curries, that type of thing. But again, faced with a situation where it'd be like £2.89 for a bag. So not for a day challenge, but again, could perhaps be used for a weekly challenge. So I went down the option of the easy open ring pull cans, because like Margaret, a lot of people that have arthritis maybe find it a bit tricky to use a can opener. So the easy open ring pull cans make it much easier. So I went for all canned produce, thinking of shorter cooking times, no peeling, no chopping, but easier on the hands for Margaret. So I did some canned potatoes, canned chickpeas, and made like a hash brown, almost like a potato croquette. And where I thought the canned tomatoes were 79p, it wasn't until I got home and I looked at the receipt, they were actually like £1.20. So I was like way over budget by 50p, and it wasn't until I got home that I realised, because automatically just tapped my card. So I think it really does highlight that if you are on a strict budget, you need to be so careful. I couldn't get any of the fresh ingredients that I wanted, and I was stretching out, struggling to get the 5 a day on the budget. So starting off with the chickpea and potato hash browns. Then for lunch, I made minestrone soup using a whole variety of different canned beans and tomatoes, and I managed to get an onion. And like Ollie was saying, there was a small stand of fruit and veg, but it was all looking a bit miserable. So I just selected an onion because, like most things savoury, are going to start with an onion. And then for dinner, sounds like we've got a theme going on here, guys. I went for a bean stew as well. So I think that it shows you that for vegan sources of protein can be particularly expensive in a supermarket, in a local shop, and if they are existent at all. So making use of lentils and pulses and beans. So I did not go hungry at all. I thought that what I made tasted pretty decent, but again, I had to make use of store cupboard ingredients just to add a little bit of spice and flavour to things. So if somebody was shopping on a budget like this, Justina, what store cupboard ingredient would you recommend to somebody to always have in their cupboard to help improve their meals?
Well, if we consider as anything which doesn't have to be in the fridge as a store cupboard ingredient, it will be silken tofu. But I feel like it is a bit of a cheat sort of thing, because you can obviously add extra protein really easily. Mm-hmm. But if you think that's cheating and it's not a store cupboard, I would say having some sort of mixed spice. So something which could go into stews, something which could go into your any other protein. So perhaps like mixed herbs, like Italian herbs, which will make everything a bit more flavorful. Because I noticed myself wanting more salt in the food, because I try to sort of not to cheat too much in this challenge and not to add any other things, but I noticed like, oh, that just lacks of flavor. Everything was a bit flavorless, and I just wanted to grab salt and just add salt into things, which I normally don't do, which is really strange. So yeah, that would be my go-to.
Yeah, I would say I was absolutely the same. So I think that if you had the budget, I would maybe look at investing in some nutritional yeast. But like Justina, getting some mixed herbs that can really add a little bit of flavour. I felt that what I made was reasonably tasty. It was a balanced, nutritious meal plan, but it was lacking that vibrancy and freshness. So maybe even looking, if you have to shop that way, perhaps looking at growing some herbs on your windowsill so that you can add a little bit of zinc. So is there anything you would have as a go-to ingredient, Ollie?
Again, yeah, mixed herbs are brilliant, aren't they? Or some chili powder or curry powder just instantly elevates a dish. You know, I would have been lost without some chili and some spice in my dishes. And then I don't know if we count salt and perhaps sugar as well, and pepper. Those kind of staples of every kitchen are definitely needed.
Yeah, I think items like that, they maybe are a small investment to start off with, but you can use them over multiple meals and multiple dishes over a number of weeks. So they really are worthwhile investing in. So I know you love Henderson's relish, Alex. Was that in any of your dishes that you produced?
No. I didn't put any extra condiments in. But yes, Henderson's relish. I do like Henderson's relish. I'm not sponsored by them, but yeah. No, I didn't splash any of that in. But that would be something that would be a great store cupboard. I think, sort of pickles. I mean, obviously, go along with what the other chefs have said about, herbs and spices and things, just to lift it up. But pickles and things like that, or brown sauce or red sauce, that just, you could just use it in so many different ways than just a little squirt on the side, just to enhance flavors. But if you want to extend it a little bit further, then frozen peas would be my go-to. It's not, I don't know, it's a store cupboard, it's a staple maybe, but you can like put them into so many different things, and they do add a good amount of protein to whatever dish you're having. So if you put it with pasta, or you've made a soup or curry, you could just put a handful in, and they are relatively cheap. But when I went to the corner shop, the budget didn't allow for them, and I was planning to get some, but couldn't get them. So yeah, I'd say something like frozen peas.
Yeah, so if everybody is looking at developing their repertoire in the kitchen that are on a budget, what would you signpost people to, Ollie, for the VFL services that we have available for people that are really restricted on what they can buy?
Well, we have a list of resources where we can point you in the way of delivery services, food delivery programs, so you can ensure you get good plant-based meals. We also have advocating for better plant-based options in community programs, like Meals on Wheels, for example. We also can provide resources and guides on where to find vegan-friendly shops, even restaurants, and more food delivery services, really.
Yeah, so at VFL we've got a wealth of resources available. So something that was highlighted in this case study for Margaret was that she was quite lonely. So what would you recommend that an older vegan looks towards, Justina, with regards to connecting with people?
So we have amazing pen and pal scheme running, which obviously people who feel like they live alone or really isolated could get in touch with someone and perhaps discuss these issues, share recipes. Of course, we have social events and forums. You can join Facebook groups as well, so you can get a little bit more engagement with other people and just have a little bit of a chat. Which is amazing just to have as a bit of a community feeling, which now and then organizes local meetups, which would really sort of help for anybody feeling a bit sad and alone in this.
Yeah, so within Scotland, not just in Margaret's case study, I've heard numerous times about people going to lunch clubs and they've not been able to go because there hasn't been veggie or vegan options. Unfortunately, Margaret was actually in a situation where she was told she could attend, she could pay to come along, but she would have to bring her own food. So we've been working a lot with community organisations to do plant-based lunch club taster sessions, supper clubs, and we've also been running supper clubs and lunch clubs within restaurants across the UK, so do keep an eye out on our socials for them. There's one that's been well established in Edinburgh, so we're looking to roll those out across the UK. So thinking on publications, Alex, what recipe guides would you signpost somebody to that was in a tight budgeting situation?
Well, most of the recipes that we've got are sort of modestly priced, but there's a one pot guide, which I believe you wrote that, Claire, which is excellent. Some lovely recipes in there. We've got veganizing classic recipes. We've got vegan baking, but our website has got all the recipes that are in those guides. So you can just go on our website and have a look at them. And if you wanted to order you wanted to look at the booklets, you can view those as PDFs as well. But yeah, we've got a whole range of different things, and I've got a new one that's in development, which is called Quick and Easy, and the basic idea behind that is that recipes are quick to make and they're easy, and that's in the I've tested all the recipes for that, but I'm not sure exactly which ones will finally get into print, but that should be coming towards the end of May, early June type, hopefully.
That sounds fantastic. So thanks for joining us today, chefs. It's been really interesting and insightful to chat to you. So just to emphasise that if you are in this situation, please do reach out. We've got a wealth of knowledge and experience. We've got lots of recipes and resources. We can signpost you to lunch clubs, and also looking at the veggie meals delivered to your door resources, and also looking at connecting people, as Justina said, through the pen pal scheme. So it's been fantastic to hear about how you guys all did in the challenge, and I think we can definitely say it was a challenging challenge, but very interesting and eye-opening nonetheless. So thank you so much for your time, chefs. Please tune in for more videos shortly. Thank you.